So I get a lot of emails every week, try to get back to everybody within a week or so. Lately, there's been a lot of emails and there's been some questions that keep coming up again. So I thought I'd put together a quick webinar today, welcome you guys in, answer the 4 top questions I've been getting as of late. And rather than just give you my answers or my thoughts on that, I'm trying to deliver today a system or a package, something that you guys can really take back to your business and implement. And I hope that's helpful. So we've got a format today. We're going to go, what the fuck happened in 2021? Our power hour today, 4 questions, 4 solutions. And then we've got 20 minutes for Q&A. And how I want that to work is on the fly as we're going through. Don't wait till the end to ask your question. Dump it in the chat box. And Jeremiah is going to do his best to, if there's something that would be better to be answered in real time, I'll do that. And if not, we'll just grab all those questions at the end and answer as many as we can. Sound fair? Let's do it then. This is where we're broadcasting from today. This is Franklin House that I bought 6 years ago to coach bar and restaurant owners and operators. We're up in that little window up top there. This house has been one of the most fun things I've ever done in my life. I work with about 50 or 60 people a year. I coach them in a group coaching format. Here's a group from years ago, changes every year. It's just an amazing bunch of people who are looking to grow and thrive together. I like to say that I'm trying to give each of them and all of their teams an unfair competitive advantage. So I've been very lucky in my career to be successful as an operator and as an owner. I've bundled up all of my success. And since then, I've worked with hundreds of different bars and restaurants. Most of the problems that you're experiencing today have been figured out, and we've got kind of solutions and templates and a process to go after those. So we try to make it easy. In school, they call it cheating. In business, they call it collaboration. Some of the things we're going to talk about today come from this matrix here. There's 3 areas that I'm good at in business and about 100 that I'm not. I'm good at strategy. So looking at the marketing side, profitability, dashboarding, people side on how to attract people, bring them on board and get them into their potential, and then how to keep that culture healthy as you go through. And then the execution side. I really think that supervisors, I didn't even like that term, like field leaders are some of the most important people as far as overall progress goes in business. So we do a lot of work with them. We optimize the peaks in business. We're going to talk about that today. And then overall hospitality. I think it's the #1 reason why bars and restaurants struggle and ultimately fail. It's very hard to bottle your brand of hospitality and then teach it to a 25-year-old or a 45-year-old that's going to represent your brand and become that face of your business. So a question I get asked a lot is, what are these top 1% or those aspiring to be like them? What are they actually after? Now, this isn't everybody's goals. Everyone gets to pick their own goals in life and in business. But a lot of people that I work with are striving for 20% net profits in their business. Some of them have significantly more than that. I'm very focused on growth, right? Your business is either growing or decaying. So 20% overall growth is nice to have. So we go after that. And then 20 hours per week of executive hours. So if running your business takes more than 20 hours a week, you're probably doing something wrong. I'm not saying that working your business, you could work every waking hour, but running it, being the executive of that business and making decisions shouldn't take more than a few hours a day, if that. So we help people get to that. And if you do, a lot of people get OPM, they get to expand with other people's money. That's a pretty cool thing. Most of our top coaching clients get to expand with other people's money, which is pretty cool. So before I get into these 4 questions, one thing we've just started to do, or we're going to start to do next week, is a diagnostic call. So a lot of people say, oh, I don't even know where to start. I don't know what to do. We need a lot of stuff done in the business. So myself and Jeremiah do these diagnostic calls. I'll probably do 3 a week myself. Jeremiah will do a few. And what we do is run you through what businesses that are achieving the results that I just talked about are doing differently than you. So you're able to compare apples with apples, and it'll help you understand what you should do next. These calls, we don't charge for them. The reason we do them for free, 2 reasons. One is I think it's a great thing to do for the industry and the market. It helps people get on track and get going. And second is some people decide to come with us and take up our coaching program. Either way, you leave with a plan. So you do 30 minutes with us. We email you a plan that you can execute yourself or join the group. Either way, it's cool. The people that come into the group, just so you know, typically we don't work with businesses that do less than $1.5 million. They're just a different type of business. Our clients do $1.5 million up to 100 million plus with multi-locations. We work with decision makers, so we are agents of change. So if you're not in a position to be able to make changes in a business, we wouldn't be the best coaching partner. And we also only work with people ready to make changes now. So we're not an education company that you can learn something and apply it later. We coach and take action on the fly as we go through. The last thing I'll say up front is in this house, we will have filled with some of the top operators in the world and some people that want to be in that category on February 28th and March 1st, right here in Annapolis, Maryland. So if you're interested in joining that group, there'll be about 100 of us. We are selling tickets for that now and love you to come if you're looking to grow and make something cool happen in 2022. Okay. All that said, let's go. I'm going to answer these 4 questions in about 33 minutes now. So number one, the first question that I see over and over is how do we attract staff during this labor shortage? I first want to put this in perspective. Firstly, a lot of businesses have had this challenge for years, right? It's not just now. It's exacerbated now with what's happening, but it's been happening for years. I think it's really important to recognize that if you only need 20 staff or 50 staff or 200 staff, whatever the number is, and you're in a city of 500,000 or 2 million, that shouldn't be a big gap to cross, right? So you got to figure out, get sharp on what you're looking for, and then go about doing something about it. Most people are only looking for 3 or 4 great staff. And when people call me and say, I need a great GM, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I have no idea what that means. I used to have 8 properties, and I had a hard time moving GMs from a nightclub to a pub, or to one type of pub to the other type of pub. You're looking for a very specific person for your business, and I'm going to show you how to broadcast that message to increase your chances. Secondly, everyone's looking to attract, but I really think you got to get in the business of finding these people. You got to decide how important industry experience is. So in my business in Sydney, Australia, I had almost 400 employees. And when I sold it, only 40% of the employees had experience in the bar and restaurant business before they came to me. So we knew the type of person we were looking for, their character, their drive, are they in the right place at the right time? And I got really good at teaching a lot of people how to be an amazing host, how to be a barback, how to be a bartender, how to be a line cook, right? Yes, there were positions that I absolutely preferred or needed experience. But as I said, 60% of the staff had no experience and 40% had experience. So I'm going to tell you in a minute or two, or a few minutes, how that's possible, how to build a system in your business that you can onboard people quickly. And for us, to be honest, in most cases, we preferred no experience in most positions because they brought in a lot of bad habits, or they didn't do business our way. And that was incredibly important to us. So as we get into the subject here, it's important to understand what Peter Drucker talks about when he says that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So your current business right now, the culture that you have, has a lot to do with who you are going to attract, or when you do find people, they're going to sniff around your business and talk to people and go in for a drink and have a meal and so forth. So while you're looking to bring new people in, I think it's a dual focus of making sure that you are building that culture in your business. Otherwise, A players, would have a hard time signing up to get on board with that team. So let's talk about job ads, because I see them a lot with my clients. I used to write them. I used to write terrible job ads, the same job ads a lot of you are writing today. And the fact is, most of them suck. Most of my job ads in the past sucked. When I started using the methodology I'm going to talk about here in a second, I'll give you local results or recently. So not so long ago, I was hiring a new assistant to help me in business here. And I asked my friends in the area, CEOs of small business, when you run an ad for it, how many quality candidates do you get? And they said, oh, not many at all. I said, well, how many total applicants do you get? The number was around 40 or 50, right? People looking for a job in that space. I ran my ad and was worried I wasn't going to get many people at all because of the way it was written. And I'm happy to give you an example. If you type in, give me an example of that actual ad. And we turned the ad off after, I think, 500 applications and had dozens of great people apply for the role. So here's how we did that. Here's how we did it a little bit differently. First off, when you look at all the ads, wherever you're advertising, realize that people are looking for that yellow dot. What's different? The rest of it is just all the same, and you get lost in it. Who cares? You really want something special, unique, and different. So here's my hero when it comes to ads. This gentleman's name is Ernest Shackleton, and I read a book about him years ago, about the endeavor, the shift that he captain to circumnavigate the Arctic Circle. He was trying to be the first person to go around the world that way in an open ship. And you imagine doing that, you need a couple dozen people to get on that ship with you. How do you craft that ad? This is what Shackleton wrote. Well, actually, here's how it wound up. As I think a lot of them might have expected, that journey didn't go well, and they got ice locked for over 2 years. Ran out of food in about 2 months, and then had to club seals they could pull through, eat whatever they could pull through the ice, because there wasn't much walking around. Nobody died, which is amazing. They were rescued after all that time. So here's the ad that he ran back then, posted it in a paper, I think in London, but actually it's on Burlington Street. So he says, men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success. And if you wanted to sign up for that, you'd send in your letter to that address. So this is a guy who was really real about the danger he was taking on to go out. He wasn't trying to attract people with great food, exercise machine on board, fun atmosphere. He was looking for rugged warriors who were willing to lose their life to possibly get the recognition in case of safe return. I believe that's the reason they all lived. And the story goes that he was flooded with applications, had more than enough to fill that vote. I would not answer that ad, but I'm telling you a lot of people do. So this is not the ad I would suggest you write for yourself. What I suggest you do is, for most of you, stop writing ads the way you're writing them today with the blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares. And the people that don't care aren't going to care about your business, those people that are applying. So here's what this looks like. First off, when you think of all the other ads running, or if you're using social media to do this and you say, hey, we're looking for, think about the headline that you're going to run. What is going to interrupt the pattern? When people are going through social media or they're going through help wanted ads, right? So this also has to be congruent with your brand. So think about what's going to make them stop. So with me, when I was hiring in Sydney, we wanted to provide a career to people in the hospitality industry. And we had a 3-year training plan. And it said no experience necessary for one of the top bar and restaurant groups in the country. Already different. Most people don't say that. And then it went on to say, we've got a 3-year program. And then it went on to say, why us? So with us, we used the special forces equivalency. We said, this job is not for everybody. In fact, it's not for most. We said, our staff often tell us this is the hardest place they've ever worked at, but there's great reward for that. We went on to say that your time here will be worth something. If you spend 3 years with us, it will matter. We hope it'll matter for the rest of your life. We went on to describe our brand of hospitality. I'm a pretty rough around the edges kind of guy, but I'm a caring person. I want to make people laugh, and I want them to have an experience that they'll remember when they come in here. So we described that. All of these things are either going to attract or repel the person reading the ad. And repelling is fine too. Interviewing people that were the wrong people to begin with is a waste of time. We describe the culture in the business, that kind of work hard, play hard. And if you say you play hard and you're playing hard, it's just getting drunk after work, that doesn't attract a guy like me. So our play hard was, we went on trips for our top performers. We educated together out in vineyards. We went to our farmers' farms. We played volleyball together. We played cricket together. We did fun shit together. So that was a culture. We talked about the give and take. So here's what we're going to give you if you work with us, but here's what it's going to take. I've already mentioned a couple of the takes. The gives, speaking to our back of house team, we had built into our budget a new set of boots for everyone that worked in the kitchen every year. Brand new, top of the line Blundstone boots, the industrial ones for work in the kitchen. Why? Because they wouldn't buy them for themselves. So we bought them for them. We wanted them to be comfortable and be safe in the kitchen. Another give is that we had a lot of Thai staff in the Southern Hemisphere in Australia. So we had English to Thai and Thai to English lessons available on a weekly basis. If you want to advance in your career, it was my theory that the better you could communicate, the further you could go. So we had to give and take. We also described our guests at every location. They were different. We had finicky people at this place. We had outrageous people at this place, and said, these are the people you will be serving, giving a piece of yourself to. We said, here's how you apply. The way that you applied was, you had to either download a form that asked specific questions, or bring in your resume and hand it to the leader on duty outside of peak hours. If you didn't do that, you couldn't work with us. You can set up whatever you want, but that allowed the first screening tool to come in. Did you follow instructions, and does the initial meeting go well? If so, you set yourself up for the next stage. Yeah? And then say, this is who and what, who you are and what we want you to do with all that. I promise you, if you advertise and you broadcast this way, not just in writing, but in your social media, you are going to possibly have less applications, but have 5 times, 10 times more inline, congruent A players applying for your business. And I know this because I've done it with hundreds of businesses. And if any of you take a stab at your first ad, we'll give you an email at the end and we'll have a look at it for it. They're interesting to go through and we'll share it as an example. All right, so resources here, that template if you want, we'll have the email up at the end. And we actually did a course and we're starting to do courses now. And how much do they cost? Like 27 bucks. Why do we even charge anything? Why charge $27 for a course? We found out that you guys are much more likely to use it if you pay for it. And if it's not worth 27, we give you your money back. I'm not concerned about the 27 bucks. I just want you to use this stuff. And the course is what, 40 minutes long or something? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so 40 minutes of me walking you through it step by step. Okay, good. We're good, Jeremy? Move on?
Yeah.
Okay, number 2. Second question we get. How do you get people, new staff up to speed? This is a very important question, especially if you're onboarding a lot of people. Now, if you're turning over people, and in North America, you've got the spring right around the corner. So you've got patios and so forth. So this is a typical onboarding program as far as the restaurants. You walk in, they introduce you to a couple of people, they say you're going to be working here, and they shoot you out of a cannon. And it's a foolish way to introduce somebody to a business. I hear people say all the time, I like throwing them in the deep end. I've never met anyone who likes to be thrown in the deep end that doesn't know how to swim yet. So let's be more thoughtful about it. How we go. I encourage you to overinvest in your onboarding program. Why? It provides an amazing return on investment. Because what happens in the first 100 days with every team member you bring on determines their entire future. How long they stay, the discretionary effort they give you when your back's turned, the culture that they contribute to, everything matters in the first 100 days. So real quick, you got to figure out what are the top 10 or 15 things that your A players possess that you need everybody to do to deliver on your brand of hospitality. All right. So if you get your leadership team together, a few of your key staff, piece of butcher's paper, and start to brainstorm, what is it that makes us special? What do they do differently than everybody else? And how deep do they go on that? Okay. Here's another worksheet. This particular sheet I have taught around the world in 31 countries. So this works. The US, Australia, Japan, Sweden, I've been everywhere. Latin America, I promise you, where I've gone and taught it, but someone said this just doesn't work in our market. So I'm going to just talk about a little piece of this here, which is right in the center. Actually, where is it? So these are the things that we're teaching people, what the values of your business are and how they show up. What your particular guests in that location both love and hate. If you're not sure, go on to your Yelp reviews, and people have gone in and mystery shop your business and let you know what they think, what they hate about your business. If you're not teaching people how to recover relationships and service recovery, you're really missing out. If you think they know how to do it, you're probably not. And right in the middle here, we have the service strategy. What do you actually want them to do in that business? So that's what we're going to talk about here in a second. Some of the things that we taught were teaching someone how to sell with dignity. You might have someone selling your products that can't afford to buy your products. So they're very embarrassed to even try to offer someone something else on the menu other than the well product they asked for. So how do you teach them that sales is a virtue they need for their entire life? And you can do it with dignity. And if you don't do it fully, you're short selling the guest that's standing in front of you. Body language, you get the bar 3D. How do you tell the difference between somebody being pensive and somebody being frustrated with how you're running your station, right? So we want to help these guys understand. Diffusing an angry human. I'll never forget my first couple of years in the industry. I was 18 years old, 19, serving alcohol in Canada, and I had 40-year-olds misbehaving in front of me. It's a very difficult thing to deal with. So have you taught your team exactly the 5 steps of how to do that, how to deal with it? By the way, all of the lessons that we taught were 8 minutes or less, and then they were all role play fashion after that. If you stand in front of them and talk for an hour, and you're a bartender in an organization, they're probably not going to get the lesson. So once you have the things that you want to teach, what I found was that we put it into a passport fashion. Let them learn at their own speed. Tell them who the captains in the business are, who the people that are amazing at those particular things, and let them go at their own pace. Give them an ultimate time. We said, this is what we'd like you to accomplish in the first 100 days, but if it takes 6 months, that's okay. But at the 5-month mark, someone's going to call you in and we're going to find out what's happening. Why it's taking so long? Is this too much? Is this not for you? For me, the first 100 days was the end of the job interview. I didn't want people to stay on with us because we were close to their house and we were a busy bar. I wanted them to stay on because they were passionate about serving our guests and being part of it. In the passport system, the 6 most powerful words in coaching your team. Number 1 is watch me, schedule them with your best people. Secondly, give them a chance to ask after that, do a debrief and say, why did you do this rather than that? Thirdly, say, now show me. And once you demonstrate competence or excellence, I'm going to sign off on your passport and you can get focused on the next thing, right? You did that with the top 10 things in your business and everyone knew that was the top 10. They got to see them, feel them, experience them, and then demonstrate their excellence in those areas. You have a fundamentally different business, and that's low cost. Okay, and then that expands for us into roadmap to success. So what we had was we did short videos, but we taught these live as well. Said this is the intro and welcome from the founders. This is our history, this is our culture, these are our guests. Then you go to a host track or a bartender track or a kitchen track, whatever it might be. So simple passports, people learning at their own level. It's really important too, I feel, that they have a peer partner, so an experienced member of staff that they know they can go to at any time without judgment, say, I'm struggling with this, or don't quite understand this part, or is this what this really means? New shy people aren't going to approach the rock stars in your business and ask them questions unless there's a formal system set up for it. And I tell you, great people love coaching great people. And then finally, this is a bigger picture. But you got that 30 days, that 90 or 100 days, then what's it look like? What do you got to learn inside of 6 months and 12 months and a year and 2 years and 3 years? You could just start to bullet these things in over time. But if you keep evolving people, I promise you, A players will stay with you longer. They'll learn the job that they're doing for you really, really quickly, but then they want to keep learning and evolving. If they don't, they're going to go somewhere else to learn and evolve. And of course, that all goes into online training. If anyone's interested in a new online platform, someone that I came up with in the industry has developed a killer platform in Australia. It's working and running in this country. We're putting content into it, and it's 1/10 or 100th of what platforms used to be. It's nothing. So if you're interested, tell me more about that online platform, and we will get you some info about that. So on resources here, the 100-day HR resources, if you want those, just type in 100 and we'll get those to you. And by the way, the reason we don't send everything out to everybody is I did that for years and no one looked at it. It's overwhelming. There's 25 documents and you don't know where to start. We just want to give you what you want. And if you don't want it, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Number 3, what's the fastest way to improve profits? Not everyone's in this business to become a zillionaire. But every business has got to make money or they're out of business, right? 20% is a nice margin. Some people make more. Most people make a lot less. Most people are in single digits. If you want to go from single digits to double digits, I'm going to tell you guys a secret. I didn't tell people this for years because it was one of the main things that I did. I went around the world and started a consulting practice that now operates in 8 countries around the world. And I launched my career doing just what I'm going to show you here. And it's remarkably simple. No, it's simple, but it's not easy. You got to follow the steps. So here's the premise. In your bar today, or your restaurant today, 80% of the revenue comes in only 20% of the hours of operation. I'll say that again. 80% of all the money comes in just 20% of the hours of operation. So what happens in that 20% absolutely matters. And for most businesses, that's 14 to 20 hours a week. If you master that, you change your business fundamentally. Typically, if you master that, you double your profits really quickly and simply. How do you do that? You milk your cows, right? You've already got people. The bar's 3 deep. The tables are full. People are waiting for more tables. You've got to get better in that area. But what happens instead is people get busy and, okay, Thursday's full, Friday, Saturday, and then they go start messing around with a trivia night or this or that. I say, get back in the pocket and get that area optimized. Once you do that, it's optimized and you put the system in place to maintain that, then go start a karaoke night. So here's the big idea. This is your business today, right? That green line and the yellow line, that difference, that delta is what I'm talking about. So at some point in your business, whether the bar is 2 deep or 22 deep, it doesn't matter. When supply is outstripped by demand, it doesn't matter how many people are waiting. So what we want to do is to get that yellow line up to the green line. You want to put a new revenue ceiling. You want to increase it by 20%. So you open the doors, it gets busier, you hit that, and then you flatline. Same thing happens in the kitchen. This works equally as well for the kitchen. Okay, I've already said this. It's worth repeating that most bars double their profits by doing this. This is where I lose a lot of people and why they call consultants in, and why I'm encouraging you to stay and pay attention. It's gonna be the most valuable thing you hear all year, and we're only in January. You can't improve what you can't measure. So you now need to understand that revenue ceiling. Okay, so let's look at it from the perspective of a single bartender in your business. Let's say that bartender, she's able to put out $600 or your local currency worth of drink across the bar every hour during peak hours. That breaks down to $10 a minute. Every minute, she's putting $10 into the register. That breaks down to 16 cents a second. So let that sink in. So every 10-second blip that she's like waiting at the register or has to go down here for this, that's $1.60 that's not hitting the register. Make sense? So in this case here, if we want to get that up 20%, we want to take it from $600 to $720 to get that individual performing 20% faster and higher. Now, if we look at that as a group, you got 4 bartenders on. Bartender 1, 2, 3, and then you got a service bartender. The collective of that is the revenue cap for the business for beverage during that time. Same happens for food, right? They've got a revenue cap. Whatever comes out that little window and the currency value attached to that. So let's say in this case here, we've got one bartender doing 400 and your fastest doing $700 an hour. But even the station bartender at station 3, they're just working beside each other. And I tell you how often I see people when they're measured doing 400 and someone right there doing 600. It's costing $200 per hour to have that delta in the business. Maybe newer, maybe less incentivized, might like to take more breaks, go out, do social media, have a cigarette, look at the stars. I don't know what people do. So in this case here, we've got a $2,200 per hour revenue cap. So we're constantly looking to say, how do we get that up? So in this case here, just think about the humans first, right? It's important that every business understand you've got your top 20% bartenders and you've got your bottom 20%. Your bottom could be because they're new, they're not interested in speed, it's not their thing, that they're hampered in some way. And then you've got your middle 60%. So the first thing that we did is started focusing on the people like a ski zone, saying, listen, Black Diamonds, you're the rock stars here. Once you start posting the numbers and people understand what they're capable of, things start to change in your business. Middle 60 and the green circles. And what we said is that the Black Diamonds get scheduled to work black shifts when your peak hours are. And you got to make sure you get your best people in the best stations at the right time. Blacks can work anywhere, anytime they want. Blues, that middle group, can work any of the blue shifts and any of the green shifts. Green can only work green unless they're scheduled with black to be trained and to learn how to work in that environment. I developed this by necessity. When I came into one of my bars one night, one of the busiest bars, and in the station on the main bar, my 2 rock star bartenders were not there. He and she were not there. 2 other people were. And I said, where are they? And they said, oh, lovely story. Those 2 got together. They're a couple now and they went away for the weekend. I'm like, that's a wonderful story, but why are these 2 here? And I knew where they were, but they didn't know where they were. And the manager who scheduled or allowed the change didn't know what it would cost to have them in that station. So I wanted to give people autonomy. If you're a Black Diamond bartender, trade with anyone in the business. If you're blue, trade with any blue or any green. If you're green, you got to work green until we work you up in the next group. And blues, we want to turn into blacks. And then we gave everyone 3 steps to get up to the next level. So that's the people side. If you're interested in learning more about this aspect, we'd look next at the product side that people are putting out. most cocktail lists, most food lists, everything's too bloated. Look at what's selling. Again, 80-20. 80% of your sales come from 20% of your items. You are better with a tighter list done at a higher level. Same with your product line. Tight and right is what you want to get everything. And then you want to look at the ergonomics. And I will give you a step-by-step with the ergonomics. The top 15 things that all add like 1%. And you add one and one, you get this compounding gain. Massive changes in your business. Okay? So that's what that looks like. Also, if you type in there size of the prize or calculator, I'll give you a calculator that'll help you figure out before you even start this exercise what it's worth. You're going to look at your current revenue, your stations, your individuals, type it in, hit the button. It's going to say this is what it would be worth. Because if your business is making any money right now, 1% profit, right? It's a profitable business. Every dollar that you add above that works out to be 65 to 70% net profit right to the bottom line. Your rent was already paid. All your major overheads are already paid. The people are already there. There's some incremental cost of lighting and water and whatever else. And then there's a product that you're serving. And other than that, it's gravy. That's why this is so profitable. This is what the worksheets look like. I've done these with global national companies. I've done these with national companies. I've done these with a bar down the street that does probably less revenue than anyone on this call. It works the same for everybody. If you have one bartender, you've always don't have the grouping, but you get all the benefits of speeding that person up. And if you have more than 5 bartenders, you get all the benefits of this particular program. So if you want that, tell us you want it. I'm actually going to do a course on this because I get asked about it so often, and I'll have that ready in the next couple of weeks. So if you want the course, cool. This is the kind of thing people are working on with us in the coaching group. But if you want to do it alone, I'll get you a better step-by-step mousetrap. All right, finally, number 4, before we get to the new questions or questions on anything I've said. Number 4, best way, not a lot of budget for marketing out there. So the best low cost, no cost way to get more people through the door of your business. And I think that marketing is another thing that is not urgent, but it's still important in your business. And because it's not urgent, so many things are, it gets pushed to the side. So I want you to think about marketing in the case of, I'm going to take my jacket off here. I want you to think about marketing in the case of internal versus external, right? They're both so important to your business. Internal marketing are the things that your team says and does to your guests when they're in the building, which I don't think enough is being done. And external are the things that you're broadcasting out, email, text, social media, etc. You need 2 different strategies, and they're both super important to get done. Think about your team working at your business today. One of my mentors that I worked for in London, England years ago, he said to me that using the 80-20 principle, he said, during peak hours, we're building revenue and ultimately building profit for the business. But we still have to build relationships. 80% of the time is revenue, 20% of the time it flips. He says during off peak, only 20% of the time are you actually generating revenue. Now 80% of your time doesn't go into watching TV, looking at your Facebook feed. It goes into building relationships with our guests in the room. When that sunk into me, it really made sense, especially as a manager and then an owner in this industry. So the first thing I say is keep the customers that you have and turn those into regular guests and then into radio. That word of mouth is so powerful. That economics sheet again, when you're at, what are you asking people to do in your business? There were 3 things that I asked of all my staff to do. Number 1 is to make somebody smile, right? When you do that, you create a physical emotion, you create a memorable experience for them. And I don't mean being a clown. Maybe you are funny, so use that. Maybe you're a connector with other people. Maybe you're the most current people on things going on and you want to chat with people. Maybe you go so far out of your way to get out from behind the bar or around the restaurant floor to do something special over and above. Or you take them on a product journey, whatever it is to make them smile. Secondly, encourage an optimal spend. I really don't think that the industry is going to be replaced by iPads taking orders. I like talking to people. I like going to restaurants. I like hearing recommendations. I like being a part of it. That's a big part of it for me. But thirdly, the marketing aspect, give people a reason to return, right? No one should ever walk out of the door or receive the check and find out the relationship is over. Once we get your money, piss off and off you go. So all that said, those 3 things for those Bruce Lee fans, he said, I don't fear the man that knows 3,000 different moves and can do them all once. I fear the man that knows 3 moves and practices them 1,000 times each. So these 3 things over and over, every guest, every night, every opportunity that we have. That old mentor of mine also used to say to us, he'd walk in the room, and for all of you leaders out there, you walk in the room during off-peak hours and say the bartender or server or host, tell me about two people in the room. It can't just be she comes in all the time. If you had a minute to talk to them, you could ask them questions and find out who they are they local, what's going on, or better, the FORD acronym, which stands for family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And it works best when you go first and say, man, I've got this trip coming up, I've got this happening. If you've got time to chat, you might as well have a level 2 or level 3 conversation rather than news, sports, and weather. Okay, that's internally. Externally, a couple of things that are super important. Number one is own your data. Your 5,000 friends, your Facebook page, your all of that sort of stuff, you don't own that data, right? That's Facebook's data, that's Instagram's data, that's TikTok's data. You want access to it, you have to pay them to get it. And that's getting more and more expensive every month. So emails are your data, phone numbers, things that you collect and use in the business are actually your data. So make sure you do that. When it comes to marketing, marketing is storytelling, right? If you market to me your prices and then there's a dollar off a burger, you do that a couple of times, I take you off the list. I'm off your list. You show me your cat too many times, I'm off your list. I'm not interested in a lot of stuff. I'm interested in your story and what you're doing and who works there and why you're doing it. So think of the social media aspect like that microphone that you're speaking into. And one of the things we're doing with the group right now is developing their brand story over the course of 12 weeks, 6 months, and 1 year. And finally here, when it comes to campaigns, an upcoming campaign is Valentine's Day. So we had a marketing call with our coaching group today, and that's one of the subjects that came up. So what are you doing? Are you marketing to Valentine's Day? It's a big opportunity. I hope you're not just marketing for the day itself. I hope you're marketing for the week, because I hate going out on Valentine's Day, but I'm happy to go back. So can you pack Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? I was saying that one of the campaigns that I ran was French wine. We had French theme, French wines, 3 different types of wine you're going to try over the course of the meal, set menu, and so forth. And then we cross promoted, and my team reached out to like marriage counselor, or they have a sexier name than that. But I talked to this woman and said, hey, would you be willing to come in and talk? You're going to have this room together and just an 8-minute talk about 3 things that strengthen a relationship that you see. And she said, no, I'd be willing to do that. I'd promote it to my database. And we packed a week full of business with more than half of it being her database. So she actually came in 3 nights. We did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we already had Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It was already a good rate run for us. So building a campaign, we'll look at the mechanism, the timing, the rhythm, something you got to think about 12 weeks in advance, at least sometimes a year in advance. And then how do you cross promote and get into other databases or get to places that you're not currently in? All right, so for that, we've got a social checklist looking at all your social devices. We'd be able to give you some feedback on that, marketing calendar, and a promotion example. I want to give you guys as much as we can. So type that in the chat if you want it. That's a lot. That's the most I've talked for a long time. I've been in hibernation. So how we do, Jeremiah? We got some questions?
Yeah. We do have some questions coming in.
All right. I'll answer these questions. Anything else you guys have, please drop it in the box. I'm here to help.
One of the questions that came in was talking about staff. You want to go again, like it's slower right now. So how do you say, hey, come join my venue or my box when maybe the dollars aren't super high because it's January?
Yeah. So that's really common, right? That's a conundrum we're in. We're trying to reload in the quiet period to get ready for the busy period. So 2 things to think about. It's not very difficult to convince someone to come and join your team, and it actually becomes attractive if they're inexperienced and you're going to help them get up to speed before you get going. So some of the people that I hired when I was in Sydney, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, I like those folks. I don't know, they recruit well. And I said, hey, if you ever want a shot to work in the bar business, here's my card, come and work. We had 8 or 10 of them by the time I left, and they were really good. I'd see some at the grocery store, 24 years old, hustling, cared. I said, hey, we thought of being in the bar business. And I was able to say, this is what you'd make to start. And on average, this is what people make with us in this position after 3 months. Like I said, 60% of our staff were new to the industry. It's tougher to get people that are on a good wicket somewhere else right now making good money. And in order to get them on board, you've got to be able to paint the picture for their first year with you. and said, yeah, it's slow right now, but I want you to come in and help us retool this and work on that. Maybe they're only there 2 or 3 nights, and then when it gets busier, they step up into it. But I wouldn't let being quiet now be a distraction. I'd flip it and see how it could be to your advantage and to their advantage if they join me.
Someone mentioned senior leadership, and I thought it was good. They want to share this video with their senior leaders. What's a good way to make sure they watch it, lean in, and embrace it like their own?
Yeah, I've been guilty of pushing a lot of books on my team, a lot of courses, a lot of videos, and everything else. I think working with your team and really engaging them, short, sharp bits. You want to cut things down, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, and say, hey, I need everyone to have a look at this over the course of the next few days. And we're going to jump on a Zoom together, or I'll see you all at work if you work together at the same store, and say, I want you to tell me if this is a concept for us, yes or no, right? Should we look to do this? And if your answer is yes, how we should look to implement this. The earlier you can get them engaged in the actual implementation and the thinking of the project, the more likely they're going to take ownership of it and not see it as some crazy idea that you've come up with that you've probably done 100 times before, if you're anything like me.
If there was a dashboard that you would start with, something I've never had my team track using metrics or red, yellow, green, what would you put on that dashboard and where'd you start?
Yeah, so on dashboards in themselves, I highly recommend a book by a gentleman named Jack Stack from Birmingham. I think it's Birmingham, Alabama. He wrote a book called The Great Game of Business. And I was so impressed with this book when I was living in Sydney. No, Springfield, Missouri. That's right. I was so impressed that I flew from Sydney to Springfield, Missouri. And I tell you, it's not easy to get from Sydney to Springfield, Missouri. It was like a 2-day journey. I took this 2-day course with him, I think, 2 or 3 day course. And basically his concept is that a lot of people, especially in our industry, came up with scorecards, right? School, A, B, C, D. You want to take a new course, beginner, intermediate, advanced. People like sports. You know, here's a scoreboard. Here's how much time's left. Here's the highest score ever. Here's the current score. Here's what it takes to win. Here's the penalties, right? We're conditioned for scorecards. So when I understood that concept and implemented it in my business, the first thing I did was start posting up our revenue for food and beverage, peak hours, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. And then saying, here's what we did last week, and here's our highest score ever. And my question was, why? I didn't know. Why are we doing 2,000 in this hour block on Friday nights, 3 weeks in a row, and then we do 3,000? Turned out to be one of two things. One was there were variables, very rarely, 5% of the time there were variables. A busload of people came in that wanted high-end champagne or whatever. Very rare that happened. Most often happened, it had to do with more people, less people, but more often it was the right people working together. And what we realized in our case, I'll give you one example. We had our highest output in the kitchen 2 weeks in a row when we were short-staffed by one person that we couldn't fill the void with. And it turns out that in our case, we were better off with 4 A players than 4 A players and 1 C. Because a C player sits down more, is in the way, whatever else. So it's 4 players that are going after it and understood the numbers. We were a better team. So in that checklist, you'll see in the speed and efficiency program, you'll see all the different ways that you can measure, and you start small. You start measuring one thing. I'll give you one more example. When it comes to teaching people, coaching people how to sell, you've got to give them something. Pick one thing. If your one thing was, if you're in a stationery store, this particular type of pump pencil, right? So now we're all focused on the same thing. We know what we were selling in the past. We know what I sold in the last month and the month before. And now I've got a new target. And then what's the story behind it? A 15-year-old from Kansas came up with this. And the reason is that when you do this happens, there's a story behind it, and I can recommend it at a higher level than something else. And then you teach someone how to move them from this product to this product, and just to offer the option. And if they still just want the value, that's cool too. Don't make them feel bad for it. So you could just start measuring one thing in your business and progressing your team along.
This is more a question about managing up rather than managing down. Could you recommend any way for someone to try and approach their area manager or high office members or the owners / board of directors with ideas along with what you're teaching today to help change the venue in the company?
Yeah, and guys, I get this a lot. We have a lot of AGMs reach out, GMs, even bartenders that just want a better place. They love where they are, but it hasn't advanced and it's missing out on its potential. The same thing, start small, right? Most owners and shareholders, if they're making a bit of money out of it, and I don't want to interrupt things too much and I don't want to get tangled up in it myself sometimes. But if you can package up an initiative and say, hey, can I get some support behind this? And here's the size of the prize, right? If we win, this is likely to happen. And I want to drive it, and I've gained some support with Sarah and Mike. They're gonna help out. And would you get behind me on this and help me see it through? It's one of the things I love about this industry. Bartenders, servers, line cooks reach out to me and say, dude, I hear what you're saying. It breaks my heart that it's not happening here. And I need you to help me to convince my boss. I can't help everyone to convince their boss, but I can help you with the information to convince them. And that is, let me do it, but you have to support me. And I wouldn't suggest going after a high CapEx thing to begin with. Hey, if we put in this new machine or if we did this, pick something low cost that you can measure. If you can't measure it and you can't get the current baseline and then the goal where you want to go, it's not worth doing. Right? No one will give a shit in the end anyways if you tell them you think it works. So get something you can measure that you can get an easy win on, get some momentum. And I've seen amazing things happen over the years.
No other questions coming in right now.
Okay. So guys, I'm sincere in saying that I want you to do better and have an awesome 2022. I can give you everything here. We've got video and templates and it's sitting on my computer. There's an email coming up at the end there.
Mhm.
So if you want all that stuff, I'll give it to you. If you have any questions, we'll do that. And then our intensives coming up, that 2-day event. It's the thing I'm most proud of that I've done in the last 15 years in business. It's pretty amazing to get 100 people together and collaborate and share and educate in all kinds of different areas in business, in how to tap more into your community, some personal issues, some mental health. If you don't struggle from it, I bet you somebody in your workplace does or at home. So we talk a little bit about that. And then we have some fun as well. It's an amazing event. And then we're up Pork the Pig. And then that's Jeremiah's email there. So if you have any questions from today or want the templates, we've got that in the chat. But anything further, email us here. If you want more information about the intensive, the 2-day event, ask us about that. And then thirdly is if you want to work with us in our coaching group, we're doing those diagnostic calls. And you could say, hey, hook us up for one of those Zoom calls. It's a 30-minute in and out, no cost, no obligation to do anything after that and see if it's a fit. And if not, you walk away with a plan for your business. We good to go?
All good.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. I'll let you know when the next one is. And good luck. See you out there.